never make it this far. They hated, they never believe me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I'm making the keys.
What's up, guys? Ryan from Cortex Labs, LifeCortex.com, where we talk about performance optimization, primarily using nootropics and by optimizing testosterone, and really by using any nutraceutical or biohacking method we have available to us to feel and function awesome. Thank you so much for being with me. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Hit the bell to get notified of all the stuff I'm pumping out, because I'm pumping out a lot of stuff these days. All right, so caffeine at nighttime. Let me just break this down because I think it's important for folks to understand, because I think this is relevant to a lot of folks that try to drink coffee at night or do drink coffee like in the latter part of the day and or just need some degree of extra wakefulness and energy at nighttime for work that they're going to do. So my caffeine routine is a cup in the morning, a half calf around 11 a.m., walking around downtown Pittsburgh, and then if I need to, and right now I am in this regimen, half calf at like 5 to 6:30 at the latest at nighttime. That's my regimen right now. So I'm in a evening caffeine consumption mode, and it's usually, so right now I'm like into drinking hot coffee in the morning and then iced coffee thereafter. Come the wintertime, that may or may not change, I don't know. I'm not one of those people that, like, just because it's winter I'm like, oh, I don't want to drink iced coffee anymore, I'm gonna drink hot fucking coffee. Like I like iced coffee when I like it. I don't know that the seasons necessarily influence that. In the evening time, I am drinking a half calf iced coffee. It's usually from a Starbucks at a market district that's near me. And so what I have them do is basically, since they don't really, this particular one doesn't have like a way to do half calf coffee or decaf coffee, rather they're doing decaf shots and then regular coffee, you know, in one of their kind of little cups with some ice, and then I put cream and sugar in it. And I run with that. And so the half calf element of it gives me probably between, I mean, you want to think that, you know, in a perfect world, it's like 60 milligrams or so of caffeine. And that's just enough for me at nighttime to provoke a good bit of energy that lasts 3 to 5 hours, wakefulness really, you know, for me to be doing what I maybe need to do, focusing on business work, administrative stuff, or like randomly going out to Pittsburgh and just trying to find someone to hang out with, usually a chick that I might find at a bar, or hanging out with people that I've met here since I've been here since October. It gives me energy to do all of those things, right? And it makes it a lot easier to go and do that. I'm not a big drinker, so like, you know, some people drinking gives them energy because it's releasing dopamine and serotonin, but mostly dopamine and, you know, some glutamate, and they're kind of getting energized as a result of that because maybe they drink a lot and they're somewhat dependent on it. I'm not that way, so caffeine is kind of my go-to there, or nootropics. So yeah, I mean, right now I'm in that phase where I'm drinking caffeine at nighttime and I really love it. But obviously the question is, like, you know, disruption of sleep. And I would say this, when I start doing it, so like the first time after haven't been drinking coffee at nighttime that I start drinking coffee at nighttime, it does disrupt my sleep a little bit. Like, it just sort of messes with my sleep. I wouldn't call it like a full-on sleep disruption, but it does mess with it like the first night or two. I don't get as restful sleep, I don't feel as great or whatever, and that's usually fine because I can kind of mask that with a nootropic stack the next day, and obviously caffeine the next day, and largely be fine. But then after 2 days, 3 days, like on the third day, I don't have sleep disruption. Like, you know, it just, my body does adjust to where I still get the energy component of the caffeine at nighttime to help me function, and whether I'm doing business stuff or going out or doing whatever. And then, you know, usually I go to bed a little later when I'm drinking caffeine at nighttime, so 11-ish instead of like 10-ish, maybe midnight. Like, by that time, I'm tired enough. I have expended some energy. I've expended a good degree of that energy. It's kind of worn off. You know, the caffeine, you know, mechanistically is worn off for the most part. And I can usually go to sleep just fine after that first sort of, you know, 2 to 3 days of my body kind of getting used to it. So it really doesn't disrupt my sleep once I'm used to it. So let's talk about some of the benefits, right? Obviously, some of the benefits that I mentioned, I mean, I'm the type of guy that, like, in the evening, so I have 2 parts of my day, right? I wake up pretty early, 7 in the morning or so. Depends, between 6 and 8, let's call it. Wake up and I'm basically hard charging until about 1, whether that's mostly it's business, and I go to the gym and do some exercise, walk around Pittsburgh. And then by 1, I take a nap. You know, by 1, 2-ish or something, I take a nap. And I sleep for max 2 hours, sometimes 45 minutes, sometimes the entire 2 hours. It really all depends. And then I wake up, take a shower, and then there's an entire second part of my day. So I just break my day up in those increments. The first part from 6 or 7 a.m. till like 1 p.m. and then sleep for a couple hours, and then 3 p.m. onward to probably somewhere around, midnight or so. And so like in the first part of the day, from that 6 a.m. time period, call it to 1 p.m., there is a block within that time period that I'm working on business stuff. I'm working, like I'm doing productive work, Cortex Labs work, administrative work, otherwise productive work. And that is where I like to get my nootropic stacks in, right? Because it's in the morning, I've had caffeine as well, I've usually gotten some exercise in, and then add a nootropic stack on top of that, and I just feel fucking awesome. My brain functions great and I can get a lot done. But in the latter part of the day, sometimes nootropic stacks are useful, but where they can be less useful and where it can be somewhat suboptimal to be taking them is in the area of tolerance, right? Most nootropic compounds, you will develop a tolerance if you're using them consistently, with the exception of certain compounds like Alcar, teacrine, mucuna, basically all the stuff that's in torque. That's why we made it to be taken pretty much every day for folks, or at least 5 days a week. But most other nootropics that we like to take, like racetams and even some of the fringe chemicals that are, ampakine-ish compounds that are working on LTP or some of the similar mechanisms like racetams, like cholinergic release and stuff like uniferam, suniferam, those compounds you will end up with a tolerance somewhat quickly if you're dosing them every day. And so like if you're dosing a nootropic stack in the evening, in addition to dosing nootropic stacks during the day, you're just pushing yourself toward tolerance a lot quicker. And that's where caffeine comes in the mix and is actually really useful. Not to say, by the way, that caffeine doesn't induce tolerance. You don't get a tolerance from caffeine, because you absolutely can and will. It usually happens as you escalate your consumption of caffeine pretty substantially, like you're drinking 120 milligrams at 9, 120 milligrams at 11 a.m., 120 milligrams at 3 p.m., 120 milligrams at 7 p.m., then your tolerance really does kind of build up because you're consuming too much caffeine and you have some other energy problem that you really need to tend to. But if you're just drinking, a cup here, cup there, it's like you're still gonna notice the energy and wakefulness benefits, and it still will operate as a compound that will provide wakefulness for you into the evening. And again, if your body adjusts to it, which it should after a day or 2 or 3, call it 4 max, it really won't disrupt your sleep. And at the worst, you can throw down 1 milligram to 3 milligrams of melatonin, maybe 300 or so milligrams of magnesium. That's kind of my go-to strategy for that particular situation. And then you should be able to get to sleep just fine and get a good enough sleep where you're rested, neurotransmitters have reset, the spindle cycles have gone on, you wake up feeling good and you're energized enough to go kill it the next day, okay? So just wanted to share that with you folks, because I'm now in a phase of drinking coffee at nighttime, and I like it. I go off of it every now and then, and that's just like for particular reasons or whatever, and it may not have a necessity during that phase of my life or something to be like energized and like pumping out content or work or whatever at nighttime. But now I'm in a very sort of between, I don't know, 4 or 5 p.m. and midnight time frame, a very active, very productive kind of period, and caffeine is really just been helping me during that time. So just want to share that with you folks. Thanks so much for watching. Go support us, livecortex.com. 2 different nootropic stacks, 2 epic nootropic stacks. Number 1, Cortex, motivation, mental energy, the drive to work. Right, we're talking about working on neurogenesis, at the same time sensitizing dopamine receptors, at the same time giving you more brain acetylcholine. All of this stuff is going to translate to you functioning better. Buy the Cortex nootropic stack at livecortex.com. It is an epic, powerful nootropic stack. Our second and newest nootropic stack is called Torque, appropriately named because it turns on brain energy. It's just like a get you in gear kind of nootropic stack. Like there's no question when you take Torque 25 minutes later or so when it onsets that it's affecting you very positively, and it's like allowing you to be uber productive. Get the Torque nootropic stack, livecortex.com. This stuff is amazing. Not for the faint of heart. Highly potent nootropic stack. Otherwise, thank you so much for being with me, guys. It's been a pleasure hanging out with you. More content to come this week, and I'll chat with you soon.
Who knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believed me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy.